Hello, my name is Rachel Doherty, and I am manager of the Professional Technical Contracting Unit. This is about a 30-minute training called Fiscal Year End Tips and Tricks. It is designed to help you be successful during fiscal year end. Let's get started. So this is our agenda today. We're going to go over the policies and practices that will help you have a successful fiscal year end. We're going to talk about the planning that you can do now that will help you ensure that your documents are signed and ready to go on time. We're going to share some drafting tricks with you so you know the kind of things that is expected when you send your documents to the PT review team. We're going to talk about routing. We're going to talk about what it means to have final documents and what you need to know. We're going to briefly discuss annual plans, and then just go over some overall expectations for the PT unit. So the first policy that I want to talk about is the encumbrance and contract execution policy. This was a policy that was finalized earlier this year by the Department of Administration and Minnesota Management and Budget. Contracts must be approved by the Office of State Procurement, and that relates to Statute 16C05. And we signify that we approve your documents by signing them. They also need to show an encumbrance, which is Statute 16A.15, in order to be valid. So when we're verifying that there's an encumbrance, we look to see that there is a signature in the encumbrance area of the signature block. We know that encumbrance is frequently a struggle at fiscal year end. Sometimes your budgets are not loaded when you need to get your documents through and signed by us. There is an exception in this policy that allows you in the first year of a biennium to encumber when the budget is available no later than July 31st. This is the first year of a biennium, so this exception applies. So please note in the encumbrance line that funds are available and will be encumbered no later than July 31st. You should still have someone sign that line item. We'll go over this in the DocuSign in the routing part of our training, but you should put a text box and type that text into the document to ensure that that note is there. So during fiscal year end, we triage documents rather than review them in the order that they're received. So when we're triaging documents, things that we're looking for are documents that are marked as a rush. We're looking for documents that are about to expire, and then we're also looking for documents that are mission critical to the functioning of your agency. You have the opportunity when you route documents to us to give us critical information that helps us know what order we should review your documents in. It's important to remember that during fiscal year end, generally everyone is in a hurry and we're all waiting to get things signed and executed. So be mindful when you mark a document a rush. If everything is a rush, then nothing is a rush. So just use that wisely as you send your documents to us. Documents with issues may get temporarily set aside. So if we look at your amendment and see there's significant issues that's going to require a lengthy follow-up from us, we might set that aside and get to it a bit later. So it is in your best interest to get documents to us that are in as good a shape as possible. Let's talk about our policies and practices surrounding return and referral. Sometimes we have to return a document to you, and that generally means that we are unable to sign it. One thing that will get your document returned is if there is missing signatures. This includes the encumbrance. We need to make sure to have someone sign that encumbrance block on the document. If you are missing clauses such as affirmative action and equal pay, that might be a reason that we return your documents. Those clauses come into play when the contract hits certain dollar levels. When it hits those dollar levels, we have to have those terms in the contract. If you have the state indemnifying another party, that is something that will get your document returned. The state, by law, cannot indemnify other parties. So make sure that if you're making any changes to the indemnification clause, it's generally a good idea to run it by us. Removing or altering the termination clause can cause issues. The Commissioner of Administration needs to have the right to unilaterally terminate the contract, so we cannot take that out. Sometimes amendments improperly remove completed duties or previous payment structures. This can create problems because the contract is a living document that outlines the parties' obligations over the contract lifecycle. We don't want to take out completed duties or previous payment structures. Unacceptably vague and ambiguous scope of work and payment clauses can cause issues as well. It's very important that your contract shows who must do what and when. And the payment clause should make very clear how the contract's payments will be structured. The state also cannot do prepayments. We do not pay for the passage of time. We know that there are some kinds of contracts that require a retainer-like arrangement. In those instances, we advise that you tie the first payment on the contract to a deliverable, such as a kickoff meeting. Sometimes we refer your documents. When we refer your documents, that means that we need additional information from you in order to approve. Things that will get your documents referred are missing attachments or mislabeled exhibits. So maybe you described attachment A, but attachment A is not included with the contract documents. That would be a missing attachment. Sometimes we mislabel exhibits. When we mislabel exhibits, often we're referring to attachment A when actually we might need exhibit A. So be careful that you're using consistent language. Missing background documents are another thing that will get you a referral. So we require, when a contract comes through, we like to see the certification form. When you have amendments go through, we want to see the contract, any prior amendments, and the certification form. That certification form is a roadmap that tells us that the initial procurement was approved and how that procurement was initiated. And it also gives us valuable information about extension options and dollar levels. If you have a missing background document, usually we reach out and ask that you send it to us. If you've altered the intellectual property language and you don't have an AG comment, we will either reach out to the AG and get that comment, or we will ask if you have any comment from the AG that you didn't include. If you have changed the insurance terms or taken them out of the contract or taken retainage out, we need to get a waiver ahead of time. And we need to understand why we are making those business decisions. So we're going to ask you for that business justification. The same goes with a business justification for altering liability clause. We want to make sure that you understand and are accepting the risks of changing that liability. If you've altered the retainage clause and you haven't got an exception for us, that's something that could result in a referral. In order to alter retainage, you have to get an exception. And then an issue that we've seen more often lately is that the vendor isn't registered in the subcontractor reporting portal, and the contract is over $500,000. So when you start a contract, and you're notifying the vendor that they were the winner of the proposal, you want to make sure they have the tools to get registered in our portal. Referrals, often we can fix the issues with additional information, but it can slow you down and you may not get your documents approved on time. So it's best to avoid referrals, and definitely a good idea to avoid returns. Planning. So there are things that we can do to plan ahead. Reaching out to program business contacts and just finding out what may be coming can make a big difference. And you can triage your own documents in categories such as critical, important, and minor. We know that all of the work we do at the state is important, but there are categories of documents where it's more important that we ensure that it is executed on time. We want to make sure that program and business has support in getting the critical and important stuff right. That is one of the reasons we're doing this training, and we hope that you share it with the program and business folks around the state so they have the tools to get their documents in good shape to come to the Office of State Procurement. If you know a unit may have trouble because of being short-staffed or having newer employees, reaching out and giving them assistance ahead of time may save time. And you can also feel free to send things early. Sometimes we know what's going to happen next. For example, we know that if there's an extension, the contract expires on June 30th and we simply need to extend it for a year, possibly at dollar levels. That might be something that is easy to do ahead of time. And then we want to check and see if there are program and business requests for proposal needs. Requests for proposals are the most labor-intensive documents for just about all involved, and timing them for before or after fiscal year end is helpful. Contract drafting. We want to focus on drafting clear and precise duties and payments. Clear and precise duties and payments mean that all parties involved know who is doing what and how they will be paid. This makes using your contract much easier and make sure that all parties are on the same page. Sometimes we use the contractor's proposal to be the exhibit and duties in the contract. It's a good idea to ask for a Word copy, and then you want to adjust the language in that proposal. Usually proposals use conditional language, and we want to have strong duties. So we want to make sure to draft, or so we're saying the contractor shall, and we're actually imposing a duty upon them. Expiration date, duties, insurance, payment, and liability clauses are where OSP finds the most issues. So make sure to check those parts of your contract and make sure that they are in order. If you're adjusting any of the terms in attachment A, it might be a good idea to check ahead of time with the Office of State Procurement. The terms in attachment A are the state standard terms and conditions, and many of the terms in there are really difficult to alter because they are statutory or legal obligations. So it's a good idea to check in with us. We are happy to help you. Include all necessary clauses for the contract dollar level. I mentioned those earlier when we were talking about clauses like equal pay. We have to make sure to get that in there when the contract reaches that specific dollar level. And then of course, check for math errors. Sometimes there's a difference between the total obligation and then the actual cost part of your contract. So we want to make sure that those things line up. Amendment drafting. We want to be mindful of updating exhibits so we do not erase already completed duties. So sometimes they did things in Exhibit A, and now we're adding Exhibit A2 with some maybe new duties. Just because they completed the old duties doesn't mean we erase them. So we simply want to add the new duties in, and we want to make sure we're doing that and we're being clear about it. Be careful of payment terms that change. We don't want to erase old payment terms. This usually happens with hourly rates. For example, in year one of a contract, we may be paying the contractor $100 an hour. And then in year two, they may want to change their hourly rate and to, let's say, $120 an hour. We don't strike through that $100 an hour. Instead, we might want to say in year one, the contractor will be paid $100 an hour, and then in year two, they will be paid $120 an hour. So we add some time constraints to describe the way the contractor is being paid. Amended to add revisions should only include underlined additions. If you've used amended to add and then you add a strike through in, we're not doing it correctly. So you want to be mindful of what you're doing when you use amended to add. Do not strike through already completed duties. Strike through means it's erased and it's no longer part of the contract. So for instance, if you had a contractor that had a duty to make a document accessible, they made that document accessible and you struck it out, and then you get to the end of your contract term and that document is actually not accessible, you don't have a duty to point to say that it should be accessible because you struck it. So make sure that you don't do that. Watch expiration dates. You cannot go over 5 years. That is a statutory requirement. And then we want to make sure all amendments have consideration. Consideration is a legal term that means both parties are getting a benefit. So we don't want to do something like add duties to the contract without compensating the contractor more. We also, if we're taking away duties because the state doesn't need them any longer, then we want to maybe make sure we're adjusting that total obligation downwards. It should be noted that when we extend the expiration date of a contract and we don't do anything else, that extension of time is considered a benefit to both parties. So DocuSign routing. In DocuSign, please route to OSP by using the admin OSP PT signing group. Leave email blank. Do not send envelopes to the PT inbox or to the PT staff's personal email addresses. This is a good way to ensure that your documents do not get reviewed on time. Add another signer, the OSP helpline. Type OSP helpline at state.mn.us in the email box. Place a text field and the OSP helpline signature color underneath the admin signature box. Now, if this seems confusing, don't worry. I'm going to show you exactly how DocuSign works. The email subject line should include the doc type. So you want to state, is this an amendment? Is it a cert in an RFP or a contract? This can help the team triage things appropriately. Some documents are easier to get through, such as a contract. You want to make sure you mark it as a rush if it is in fact a rush. You may want to include the vendor name, the admin ID, and SWIFT numbers can also be helpful. And that benefits us if we need to look for the document. The search function in DocuSign can help us find that faster if we have those kind of details. So OSP generally takes 2 to 3 business days to get back to you. And before you ask the status of your documents, check where it is at in the process and if it is routed correctly. So when we're talking about rushes, so we generally take 2 to 3 business days. So if you know your document needs to get signed sooner than 2 to 3 business days, then you should mark it as a rush. So let's look at DocuSign and give you some good tips on how to successfully manage DocuSign. So I'm going to log into my DocuSign account. Hold on, I want to make sure that I'm sharing this appropriately. Okay, now you should be able to see my DocuSign account. So I'm going to go into my DocuSign account and I'm going to go to New. And I'm going to pick Send an Envelope. And then I'm going to go to Upload. And on my desktop, I have this PT contract and exhibits. It's a blank document, but it has the signature block, which is the critical part. And we're waiting for that document to appear. So next thing we're going to do is set the signing order. So you want to make sure to do this in a specific order. First, we're going to do encumbrance. And I'm just going to make up a person named Joe Encumbrance. And make up an email address for Joe. Then the next person we're going to have sign is the contractor. So, contractor. We're going to do our third recipient, which is going to be the agency. So we're going to do John Agency. And this is the agency. Then we're going to do the OSP PT signing group. What a signing group is it's a specific group of people that are designated to receive documents. So I'm going to click Admin OSP PT. Do not click OSP EA. That is not the right one. It's OSP PT. So we can leave, because you see that signing group there, that means we're able to leave the email blank. So then we're going to add one more recipient, and this is the OSP helpline. So I'm going to put OSP helpline, and then we're going to do OSP help, and they're going to populate for me. So we have all of our signatures in there, and now we're going to go to next. So we're going to go to the signature block on this document. All right, first we're going to do encumbrance, and I'm going to put signature. Then I'm just going to put their name, title, the date signed, SWIFT contract number, and then I also am going to put a text box down here that they could put a note in there that would say something like funds are available, will be encumbered before 7/31. So that's the kind of note that we're looking for if your budget is not loaded by the time when you need to route the document. So now next I'm going to choose contractor. We're going to go down and we're going to do signature, name, title, and once again, date signed. Then we choose state agency. And we're going to go signature again, the date signed, title, and then name. And then we're going to do the Office of State Procurement. And then it's very important to remember this next one, which is the OSP helpline. All the OSP helpline gets is a text box, but this text box is very important because we're going to put in this document the admin ID. That admin ID signifies that it has been logged into our system. So this is what your signature block should look like, and maybe your budgets will be loaded. Let's hope that's the case. So then you won't have to put that text box. So this is what your signature block should look like, and make sure you get this right because that ensures your documents get reviewed in a timely fashion. And just one thing to remember is there's this feature once you route the documents and you send, and it says waiting for others, and you can see exactly where it is in the process. So you can see that it has landed at the OSP inbox when you look at that waiting for others. So now let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. So finalization. Your documents are fully executed as soon as an OSP reviewer signs the documents. Your documents will go through one extra step, and that's that log in our system where the OSP help desk types in the admin ID and makes sure it's appropriately logged into our system. You can check on the status of your documents, and if you're waiting on the OSP help desk, the great news is you are okay to start work because your documents are finalized as soon as the OSP PT group signs your document. And when the OSP help desk does get your document logged in, everyone who signed will receive completed documents. So annual plans. If you need annual plans signed by July 1st, 2021, they must be to us by June 15th, 2021. We want to make sure that we have time to review that and get it approved and assign you a T number, and that 2-week time frame ensures that we're able to do that. In general, going forward, your annual plans will always be due the middle of the month around June 15th. You can still send it to us after June 15th, but we just may not be able to approve it by July 1st. You can send your annual plans via DocuSign with the subject Annual Plans Fiscal Year 2022, along with appropriate contact information. The PT team will review, ask questions, or approve. Once we've approved, you'll receive a T number that you should use to track its use. As a reminder, annual plans cannot be amended. They are documents that are not encumbered. So they're really estimates of the amount of services that you might need. So we would encourage you to overestimate. And it's, we don't want to amend these as a matter of practice. However, we do know that issues come up, surprises come up, things that we don't necessarily expect, and we will work with your agency if you need an amendment. You must make an effort to use targeted group economically disadvantaged and veteran-owned vendors. It also cannot be used for IT services or for high-risk services. So if the services require insurance, then you should probably not be using an annual plan, and you should be using a standard PT contract. We also have a training called Annual Plan Basics, and it is available on our website. Setting expectations. Over the last few years, our review time has hovered around 1.7 days. So in my time with the Office of State Procurement, it really hasn't budged much from that number. except when we went with electronic processes during the pandemic, our review time dropped to 1.3 days. That was a significant and big drop. But this fiscal year end, between pandemic volume and fiscal year end volume, plus the end of a biennium, it means we are poised to have a particularly busy fiscal year end. We are also short-staffed, and I know many of your agencies are probably short-staffed, but that means we expect our review time is going to take closer to 2 to 3 days. Please use DocuSign to track status of the documents and ensure they are routed correctly before inquiring as to status. So if we are looking for the status of your documents, it means that we're not reviewing them. So it's something that takes up time. So if you can look yourself, that is a good first step. If it has taken more than 4 days, please reach out to us and let us know, especially if that is something that you need signed soon. We really want to support you and make sure that you are equipped to have a smooth fiscal year end. We're hoping that this training helps and that you share it within your agency, because the more people that have this information, the more people on the same page. So anyways, I want to wish you all a happy fiscal year end. We'll be welcoming in fiscal year 2022, and let's hope it's a good one. Thank you all for taking this training, and you can reach out to the PT unit anytime if you need help. Thank you and have a great day.